Mr. Casey Roloff. How are you?
Doing great this morning. How about you?
I'm doing great too. I see some sunshine peeking through the window behind you there.
Yes. Beautiful day out here on the coast.
Yeah. And I see some maps behind you as well. The pictures, I guess that's going to enter the conversation today as we go through our
Oh yeah, that's all the kind of up and coming stuff we're working on.
the projects. You are a very unique guy in the world of land development and contracting and construction. And I'm pretty excited to have you on here because I don't think we've had anybody with, the kind of vision that you have. You make cities, you make towns.
Well, yeah, we say towns. Cities are,
Okay.
the next level up. But yeah, we can talk. We can talk about that.
Why don't we start at the very beginning, Casey? People listening to this podcast are construction and contracting professionals from all over the world. Everybody here is facing forward in their business. They're looking for how they can learn more and do more and be the best they are. Can you tell us who you are and how you come to be speaking to this group of contractors around the world?
Well, I think that Dominic, you reached out and I'd heard about your show and thought it was a great opportunity to kind of share our story. And so we're happy to be here. So appreciate it. Yeah, I think our story kind of started with, as a kid, grew up in the suburbs in Vancouver, Washington, just on the other side of the river from Portland.
Yeah.
And, I never really thought much about the environment that I was growing up in, and it was fine. And, I had great parents and took, good care of us and all that. But then I met my wife in high school, and she grew up in a community where she could walk to everything, walk to school, walk to the store,
Wow.
ride her bike. And, it was such a different world than what I grew up in, where, mom and dad had to drive us everywhere to do anything. We didn't have as much independence, and my wife and, her brothers and sisters had so much independence growing up. So it really was a stark contrast to the way I grew up. And it was very, very interesting to me why we had grown up in such different places. And so we ended up going off to college. I started a little house painting business.
Hey, you and me both. No way.
Yeah. Always a great place to get started. And that was how I could pay my way through college, or help pay my way. And I got a little Home Depot credit card. They were my angel investor. Got $1,000 on a credit card and bought my equipment.
Wrap that thing up as fast as you can without knowing it.
Yeah, exactly. And just started making flyers and getting the word out, and got real busy. And so got through college, and then I always loved sketching houses and just always kind of dreaming up houses. And so there was a book that came out called The Not So Big House. Susan Sasanka was the architect's name. And she basically talked about the principles of building more intentional home designs, and how our houses have gotten, over time, much bigger over the last 100 years. And how we needed to make more intentional spaces, higher quality finishes, higher quality design, but in a smaller space. So I took a lot of those principles, designed our first house, found some.
Designed your own first house. That was your house.
Well, it was for sale. It was a spec,
Yeah.
And found someone crazy enough to loan me money at, they loaned me money at 14% interest.
Oh yeah, they're doing you a favor.
Yeah. And so that's kind of how we got started. And that was in 1995. And that evolved into basically a custom home design and custom home building business, which is nothing new. But it was 5 years later when I thought, well, this is kind of a problem. We got houses we're building over here and over there, and they're just kind of scattered on these scattered sites. And what if we could build our own neighborhood and put all these, well-designed homes in a little neighborhood together, and we got like a little family.
Yeah.
And so that's when we learned about Seaside, Florida. And
Okay.
yeah, Seaside, Florida. If you don't know about Seaside, Florida, it's on the panhandle of Florida. They considered it the redneck Riviera, and southern Alabama. It was one of the most undesirable stretches of coastline on the Florida coast, between Destin and Panama City.
Yeah.
And so that's why the story's even more interesting, is that really nobody thought anything good could happen down there. And Robert and his wife Daryl Davis, who were the founders of their town, in 1982 decided, let's go look around at all the development around us in the last, that's been developed, and see what we can learn from that. And what they learned was that we really stopped doing what we were so good at doing before the automobile came into our lives in the 20s and 30s. And they, all the new development they looked at, big subdivisions, cul-de-sacs, big gated golf course communities, these kind of pencil thin high-rise towers that, just didn't look all that attractive, and they really weren't designed into an urban fabric. And then they looked at places, they were East Coasters, so they were looking at places along the East Coast like Nantucket and Martha's Vineyard and Charleston and Savannah and St. Augustine and all these beautiful, sophisticated places. And basically what they realized was that we had lost the art of town building. When the automobile came into the picture, we went from designing at a pedestrian scale in a very artistic way, what we call placemaking, or the art of town building. And we started to we really dumbed down how we build our communities, and we design them around the automobile, where we stripped away the third places in our communities. So if you're not familiar with the term third places,
I am. Starbucks talks about being the third place.
I
wonder if they stole it from that.
First places are where you live, second places are where you work, and third places are the places you want to hang out. It's the coffee shop, it's the bookstore, it's the park, it's the pub, it's the gazebo. They're all these places that were designed into our communities, that were within walking distance of our houses, and we didn't need such big houses. And that's something that, when we were talking earlier a little bit about houses and how they've grown exponentially in size. And a lot of that is to compensate for all those third places that we're missing within walking distance of our houses, the pub. And so we're installing, our own personal movie theaters and billiards rooms and bars in our houses, because you can't walk to those places anymore.
Your communities have a look to them then, right? Because you're building communities.
Yeah. So again, this, back in 2000, learned about Seaside, and Seaside became essentially this laboratory showing other developers that we can build towns from scratch again, and going back in time and learning from the most beautiful towns, villages, cities in the world, and applying those same design principles into our new communities. Now, they don't have to be traditional designs. They can be very modern, but the keys are really three big principles. Number one, the communities or the towns themselves have to be meet all the basic needs of a resident or a guest, within a 5 to 10 minute walk or bike ride. So you feel silly getting in your car because everything's in very close proximity.
Right.
Second principle is having a lot of diversity in housing types. When you think about subdivisions, there's not a lot of diversity. It's a lot of it's either small homes or big homes or mansions, and they don't really mix. They don't like to mix with apartments or townhouses or small cottages. And so what town building is about is bringing that diversity back, where there's something for everyone. You can have a little apartment above a garage, an ADU. That's nothing new. And then, you know, a smaller house or a bigger house or a big luxury house or a luxury penthouse. So there's price points designed into the town for everyone. And then the third principle is what they call the transect. And the transect is the built environment, the most urban part of the town. So think Main Street, you know, the town center.
Yeah.
But then as you go out to the edge of town, the urbanity lightens up and becomes more casual, more country. And so when you're a pedestrian, you're walking around these towns, every street looks different because the transect is shaping those streets. The density goes from maybe 20 to 30 homes per acre in the center of town out to 1 home per acre, and then there's gardens and farms and the countryside. So and this is why a lot of people love going to old towns and cities in Europe.
Yeah, in Nantucket or wherever. It's got that feel.
Nantucket's one of the best examples in the U.S. because that countryside still has been preserved. Right. Sadly, if you look at like the West Coast, like places like Park City or Laguna Beach or La Jolla, they have great historic downtowns, but the countryside has been redeveloped into suburban development. Yeah. So it lacks that extra layer of nature. So anyway, so we're just bringing that all back into practice. So they inspired us. This is in 2000. They inspired us to build our own town. But we started, and this really is kind of goes to the topic of the meeting of the podcast is that we've had to create our own markets in markets that didn't exist. So
you have to have some vision there that this is going to work here.
Yes. So in places that people said, no, don't do it there. That would be awful. Because there's not the comps, the market's soft. There's just a lot of kind of derelict development going on. But that's how it just made us have to be better. It wasn't just an easy market. These weren't easy markets to go into and just say, oh, if you just build, 3-bedroom, 2-bath houses, you're going to sell them all day long. This was a situation where we had to basically do what people in the area or in that market thought was unthinkable. And how we differentiated ourselves was just the placemaking aspect. We used such good design that it attracted people. And once they got into our community, they wanted more. And they forgot about everything around us.
Well, it seems pretty idyllic. I've seen your website. I haven't been to your location yet, but it seems like I want to go there. I want to go there to chill out. I want to work on the patio. It just seems like the place you want to go and do all the things that your vision sort of laid out. How did you make that jump? Like, did you go from just building spec homes, one over here and one over there, to developing a cul-de-sac? Like, how did you make the jump?
We tested after we learned about Seaside.
Yeah.
We tested the philosophy on the Oregon coast, Central Oregon coast, with our first neighborhood called Bella Beach.
Beach.
The average days on the market were 270 days. Nothing was selling. The banks told us we were absolutely crazy. The people in the experts in the area told us we were crazy.
Yeah.
And we told them that the reason nothing is selling is because there's nothing compelling enough to buy. And we're going to design something and build something that people are going to really love and they're going to want it. And so we did exactly that. And in it was about 100 home community. In the first 30 days, the first 90 days, we sold out half the community.
Oh, so yours weren't listed for 200 plus days. This was the market was listed for 200 plus days.
Right. There was a glut of inventory on the market, which is typically, markets you want to stay away from. But I think that's why our story and what we've done by using these principles, I always tell everybody that we didn't invent any of this stuff. We're just think of your favorite town or favorite city in the world.
Yeah.
Pretty much guarantee it was built before the 1900s and before the automobile.
Right.
And then now start dissecting that and looking at what are the elements of that town or city that you love the most? Or is it the piazzas, the plazas, the squares, the main street? And start to study those and literally measure the streets, measure the sidewalks, measure the alleyways. I mean, one of the big changes that happen in suburban develop or from traditional development to suburban development is we pushed our buildings back from the streets and then put parking lots in the front of our buildings so we could show off our parking lots and how easy it was to access the business. Well,
Yeah.
that wasn't the right thing to do. The way to do it is actually have our buildings up against the street and hide the parking in the back, because it just creates a much better street scene.
Right. So do you deal with vehicles right now? Is it a vehicle no-go zone in the places that you build, or is it?
No, vehicles are allowed, but our job as town planners and designers and civil engineers, our job is to create as much chaos as humanly possible for drivers. So
it's not, you don't want to do it.
You don't want to drive. Think about your favorite town, city, or village in the world. There are places you can't wait to park your car. You do not want to be driving around. You want to be walking
You're
around.
so right. They just actually did that with a street in my city, where they just had to make it a walking only area, and it was the merchants that lobbied for it. And I can't wait to go there, because it is one of the greatest places ever to get coffee and just hang out. It's not a driving place. So they've taken that away now, and that whole roadway is going to be more of a common area.
Yeah, exactly. And that's, some urbanists or what we call ourselves new urbanists, even though there's nothing new about it, there's still an argument to say that you don't want to completely get rid of the car. We were actually a couple years ago in San Sebastian, Spain, which is, if a lot of people have not been there. It's not one of those popular towns, but it's a beautiful city. And basically you'll see cars just crawling down the streets because there's so many pedestrians and there's so much activity on the streets. And that's actually a good thing. And the reality is we need Amazon and we need our delivery trucks and to come through. So it does, when you go to pedestrian only streets, it does create other challenges on how you're going to get, items to the merchants and things like that. So there's an argument for, pedestrian only and allowing the automobile or the service vehicle. But the key is to design it in a way where pedestrians are at ease and they can walk across the streets. They can walk right down the middle of the roads. And it's okay, because they know they're in a pedestrian environment and the car has to defer, or the driver has to defer to the pedestrian. So everything is set up in that way. And the reality is it doesn't take that much longer to drive through. Yes, it's a little bit of a hassle, but the payoff for the pedestrian and for the retailers is so great that people are okay with it.
I don't know why it's making me think this, but my wife's family lives in a very small mountain town, and when I first started dating her, they still had hitching posts in front of the stores. And now it's, I've been married for 21 years, but those hitching posts are gone, and I kind of miss them. I miss the fact that people used to ride their horses into town and tie up their horse and go do what they needed to do. I know it's not similar to what you're talking. It's similar to what you're talking about, but it's not your style. But I think of towns like that you want to be walking around, or you want to slow down and enjoy it.
Yeah, no, there's nothing wrong with a hitching post. I do think that one interesting thing on the West Coast of the US is that our towns were wider. I mean, our main streets were wider, and they made room for big wagons and stagecoaches and things like that.
Yeah.
If you go to European towns and even the East Coast towns, the main streets are much more compact, which frankly are more desirable than those wider main streets.
Right.
You can make a wide main street very successful, but it's just harder because there's more space to basically add traffic calming elements to, because it's all about adding traffic calming elements. But but anyway, so all of this, again, inspired us to build our own town here on the Washington coast. So we serve the Puget Sound markets,
Yeah.
Seattle, Bellevue, Kirkland, Redmond, and we also serve Portland, Oregon. But we have people that travel all around the country that own houses here, and even some international travel and homeowners.
Wow. And so how big, so when we're talking about the community you're in now, because you built Bella Beach, there was another community you built after that. Do you mind telling us what that was called?
So we went from Bella Beach, we sold that out, paid off our bank loan really quickly when, again, it was considered very high risk at the time. And then we decided, we were 28 and 29 years old at the time. And
wow.
We decided we were going to build our own town from scratch. Like that was we cut our teeth with Bella Beach, and that was kind of our own laboratory. Like, will this work? Is this just a Florida thing? And what we proved was that.
Can I stop for just a second?
Yeah.
Did you do this with money out of your own pocket, or did you have to go sell a dream to a group of investors and say, this will work? Here's my vision. Here's my pitch deck. Like, did it just magically happen, or how did you get there?
Well, so basically, we made about $3 or $4 million on Bella Beach. So it was a real, financial success for us. And I had two partners in it. I had basically half ownership, and so paid my investors off, and then our take was a little over 3 million. And so basically, we went shopping. We were just young and naive enough, and
You're
so we were
28 and 29 years old. That's fantastic.
Yeah, and we knew at that time we were so drawn to creating spaces that people would love and create memories. Whether it's a kid riding his bike for the first time, or someone getting engaged, or it was just. That's always been what's driven us. And, frankly, we could have retired at that age and just said, hey, we should be really smart, pack that away. But it was the payoff and the rewarding part is really seeing people enjoy our communities and bringing back this art of town building. So it's kind of an obsession, kind of something we really love doing and enjoy doing. So we were able to buy the land where Seabrook exists now. Again, a market that people said, don't go there. It's the worst decision you've ever made. And again, the reason for that was that there was such a glut of inventory on the Washington coast. When I came up here, you could buy lots for $10,000 all day long, like hundreds of them if you wanted to.
And so what drew you to it then? Like what were the criteria that line up for you to say this is a winning spot?
Well, I looked at the built environment. Well, the natural environment was spectacular, but I looked at the built environment and the development that had happened on this coast, and it was so bad that I knew that if we could design a beautiful built environment, adjacent to this beautiful natural environment, within close driving distance of a large metropolitan area that, as you know, is a very wealthy metropolitan area, that they would come. It was basically build it, they will come, and that's exactly what happened.
And you're right on the water there, Casey.
Yeah.
How do you treat the water, just so people get a sense of this, because not everybody lives in the Pacific Northwest like you and I. How do you treat the water, that view, that beauty, just the feeling of the ocean? And, I don't know if it's beach or rocky there, but how do you treat that as you're building your community?
Well, so the whole town plan is, so we have this, if you could visualize, we have this beautiful Pacific Ocean, crashing waves, got some rocks up to the north. And we're looking through this beautiful forest out to the ocean that we've really opened up. So you've got lots of natural light and these incredible views of the ocean. And then we always put the public first. So we took the oceanfront section and we built a public esplanade along the top of the bluff. Wow. So we have this big sandy beach down below, but we have this, really great esplanade along the top of the bluff, and then the homes front that esplanade and look out to the ocean. But again, it's not about just those beachfront houses. We're selling houses, in the millions of
In the
dollars,
community.
way off the beach. And
Okay.
it's the town. People come for the ocean, but it's the town and town center that is the soul of the community, and that's what people want to be attached to. The ocean's kind of becomes secondary, and the town itself becomes the main event.
Yeah. You reminded me, you mentioned Spain a second ago, so that's still rolling through my mind. We went there with my wife and when we had our first child. And I remember parking our car at a grocery store or something, and the view from the parking lot, because there's so much coastline in Spain, it's all coastline, right?
Yeah.
It was just a parking lot facing the ocean. And I thought, what a waste. It's the
Yeah,
most
right.
beautiful view. And I
Yeah.
just parked my rental car there and I walked into the grocery store. Crazy.
Yeah. No, I mean, you really want to, the beauty of a place like this and or San Sebastian, Spain, is that you don't have to live on the ocean to have that connection. Anyone can walk out their door and go walk along the ocean. It's not privatized. Sadly, what's happened in suburban development is that we've privatized our beachfront. So like if you go down the California coast, for example,
You can't access it.
you can't access it in a lot of different places, and that's sad. We want to make it so everyone has full access and it's public, and anyone from any socioeconomic background can drive in here, park their car, enjoy our town with their family, not have to spend any money. It's the antithesis of what a gated resort community is about, where you have to pay to play. That said, when you design a beautiful place like this, people pay, incredible premiums for our houses and to stay here overnight. But we don't limit it to just those people. Anyone can come in, a young family that's just kind of dreaming about, what it would be like. It's a very rewarding part of town building for us.
You're building a legacy here. You're building these things are going to survive. No offense, Casey, well past you.
That's the hope. That's the hope.
Do you put any? I'm going to call them Easter eggs. Is there something you do, and you may not want to share it. You might say, actually, Dom, that's private. Just me and my wife have an inside joke. But do you do something? Like do you bury an old shoe underneath the corner of Main Street, something like that tells you in the future that Casey was here?
No, we like to fly a little bit under the radar. And we want this, this is way bigger than us. We feel like we're just stewards of this land.
I love
it. And we're stewards for our homeowners and our guests, and we're here to serve them. That's what this is all about.
Yeah.
So it's very collaborative. We listen. We are all about getting customer feedback, and our job is to create a beautiful place for them to enjoy with their families and friends. It's just that simple. And that's led to us having a lot of success as well. If you focus on the customer experience, the success follows. I have a lot of real estate friends and contractor friends that they're in it. It's all about the money, and that's great. Before Seabrook, I made a lot of money in real estate as well on maybe some deals that I wasn't even super excited about, but they were lucrative. But this has become so much more than a business for us. It's a lifestyle. We live here. We've been raising our family here. This is home.
I remember in our pre-interview, I was like, "Do you live at this community?" You're like, "Yeah, we always live in our community." So that's a big buy-in as well. But you know what it sounds like to me, and this is the business coach of Dom coming out, but it sounds like you're living completely in alignment with your values. Like you're just Casey Roloff being Casey Roloff, living Casey Roloff's life.
That's how we feel. We wanted to raise our family in a community like this. It just really didn't exist on this coastline. And my wife and I have always been drawn to the ocean. So yeah, this has just been a great opportunity for us. It's very surreal. I pinch myself, every day, literally. Like I just can't believe I'm doing this and how I, fell into this very serendipitously. So
We're talking to other contractors, sub trades, people here doing all sorts of things. Maybe they're just specialized in doing landscaping or roofing or something like that. What would your message be to them, in that they're necessarily not out to change the world or do placemaking, building their own communities, but what's the business lesson that you could pass on to them?
well, I think, you know, I wouldn't just chase the deal. I would look for, um, you know, builders and developers that are really trying to create something special. And one of the things that just makes my heart warm here is when I see our subcontractors walking their families and their kids through this town.
Oh, like
And
after a long day or come back on the
oh
weekend?
yeah, and they'll come out for the weekends, and a lot of them we've been able to retain because they know that they're building something much bigger than them or Seabrook. That this isn't just, oh yeah, I framed those 200 houses right there and then I'm gone and I'll never go back there again.
Right.
They actually want to bring their family and friends and show them what they're building.
Wow.
It's very prideful for them, and that's just seeing one of the roofers walk across the street and go get an ice cream cone with one of his kids, and it's like, oh, that's one of our roofers. That's so cool that he's here and he's enjoying. He's all they're dressed up and really proud to be here with their family and show them what they're building. So that's all I would say is or encourage is to look for projects that are creating a legacy and that they can be a part of, because it's like a family. When you're all building something for the same reason, it's so much more rewarding, more than the check itself. It's you're part of something much greater.
So cool. This is great. Casey, if somebody wants to find out more about you or see the communities you've built, how would we go about doing that?
Well, our website is Seabrook, SeabrookWA.com. So SeabrookWA.com. And, a lot of people, when they discover our website, that, the best thing to do is to come out here for, 3 or 4 nights and rent a cottage. And I describe it as like taking a test drive of what it's like to live in a walkable community where you don't need your car. I mean, you get here, you park it, you unload, and you won't get back into it when you're here. And that's the part that is very attractive to our guests and homeowners. And then the other big thing is that if you do have kids, they can be very independent here because it's designed at a pedestrian scale. There's kids, riding bikes and walking all over. Yeah. So I think that's the best way to experience it. Just get a taste of it. But I would also encourage people to, if you're on the other side of the country, go check out Seaside, Florida, Rosemary Beach, Alice Beach. There's communities like this around the world now. You just have to find them. And
have any of them been in TV shows? Just so people who don't understand what we're talking about get a visual. I know you're smiling because we talked about this in our pre-interview.
Well, I would say that yes. I mean, movies and TV shows. Again, think about all the towns and villages that were built pre-1900 or pre-automobile. So
is it the Leave It to Beaver type thing?
Yeah, I mean, well, just all the historic places in the world. I mean, they've never gone out of style, right? They're so attractive. And so like when we vacation, for example, we always stay, close to town because we know what it's like to be close to town. We don't want to be in some private, enclave or something. We want to be in the town itself or the city itself, so we can access everything on foot versus the automobile.
I love it. All right, sir. Well, thank you so much for being with us today. And for those of you listening, you got to go check out the website. It's inspiring. It makes you want to do the right things in your life so you can take a break and go to the kind of communities that Casey's building.
We'd love to have you. Yeah, thanks for taking the time, Dominic, to learn more about our story, and I look forward to watching your future shows.
Yeah. All right, Casey, have a great day. Thanks, man.
Okay, you too. Thank you so
Thanks.
much.
Bye-bye.